What a game. Iowa's defense still is what it is, and Ohio State's defense rose to the occasion, and your Ohio State Buckeyes, who once again show they're one of the better teams in the country, blow out the Iowa Hawkeyes on Saturday afternoon. Another live Ohio State postcast after a 44-point win over Iowa starts right now.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, we are live once again after another Ohio State game. Locked On Buckeyes is having postcast after Ohio State games. They've all been after wins, and the Ohio State Buckeyes blow out the Iowa Hawkeyes 54-10 in a game where things were on. There were turnovers. There were some interesting plays, and we'll discuss these today right here, live reacting to what we just watched. In this live reaction, 3 quick takeaways. One of them is about Zach Harris and Tommy Eichenberg and their importance to this game. Got to talk about a struggle the Buckeyes had on the offensive side of the ball, which derailed the passing game of the Buckeyes. But before we get to any of that, this defense, the Ohio State defense, which only gave up 3 points in the entire game, the other 7 points that Iowa scored came on a scoop and score when C.J. Stroud fumbled a strip sack back in their own end zone. We'll talk about that later on because that was a little bit interesting as well. But this defense continues to be elite. They highlighted it in the broadcast. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, even Jenny Taft had a backstory about about Jim Knowles and his upbringing, why he became a coach, when he became a coach, how he became a coach, the story leading up to that. But this defense continues to be special. Everyone going into the season, and even on this podcast, we talked about how the offense at Ohio State can be elite. We all knew that going into this game, Iowa's defense, one of the better defenses in the entire country, not just the Big Ten, but in the entire country. We all knew it was going to be a game where the Ohio State offense had to come out and be fundamentally sound. I talked about it on Locked On Buckeyes leading up into the game, how the O-line needed to communicate well because of the fundamentally sound defense that Iowa has. If you don't communicate and if you don't know who has what, and if something changes post-snap, how you guys are going to change things up, then you never know what's going to happen, and it could be a recipe for disaster. Well, this Buckeye defense, to go by the numbers here quickly, they just tell a small snap. They only give a small snapshot of what Ohio State's defense did in this game. They held Iowa to 81 passing yards in this game, only 77 rushing yards in the entire game. Now, we all know that does include the sack yardage of Spencer Petras and Alex Padilla, the 2 quarterbacks that Iowa has. Well, even if that's the case, Iowa only had 102 yards rushing the entire game. They held them to 3.4 yards a pop. That's elite level stuff we're seeing right there. Elite level stuff. And you see still Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg and Mike Hall when he was in there, and Teron Vincent and Jack Sawyer, Jake Tuamaloa, Cody Simon when Ohio State did run a 4-3, 4-down lineman, 3 linebacker set every now and then to change things up. We saw that the Buckeyes defense rose to the occasion. They also had 6 takeaways in this game. You think about a time that you've watched Ohio State football where there have been 6 turnovers. These are things that elite defenses do. These are the type of environments that you want to see in a game that can be close, in a game where you're not sure what's going to happen, where you know you're going up against a bad offense, but you know that defense can be good on the other side. Ohio State's defense showed they're once again going to be opportunistic. And early in the season, the first few games, there were not turnovers. And people were asking, when will Ohio State's defense start creating turnovers? Well, we saw one early, first play of the game. Tanner McAllister had an interception of Spencer Petras. We saw Zach Harrison strip sack. We also saw Tommy Eichenberg breaking up plays. I want to get more specifics about Harrison and Eichenberg coming up later on. We saw Tanner McAllister have another pick later on to the game. This defense is becoming opportunistic, and if you're holding a team, if you're creating 6 takeaways, 6 turnovers in a game, 4 of them being fumbles, there were 4 fumbles. Iowa lost 3 of them. We're quickly seeing Buckeyes also had 5 sacks. You saw true freshman Caden Curry get in the mix there. J.C. Tuamaloau, Javonte Jean-Baptiste combined for a sack as well. Zach Harrison had a sack. I mean, this was a game that when everyone's talking about Ohio State's offense and the offense is doing this and is doing that and they're flourishing, all eyes are on that defense. We could take away a lot of things from this defense's performance, and this is going to be one of those performances that you want to see, that you want to have prior to going to Happy Valley next week against Penn State, where they have one of the better running backs in the country in Nicholas Singleton. You need this kind of performance to propel you and to really help you be better prepared and better motivated. If you need more motivation playing Penn State, you just got it this week because this defense is elite defense at Ohio State, and I can't wait to see what they do next week against Penn State. The defense is elite. Well, who stood out on said defense this week and during today's game? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to spice up college football this season. There's an emphasis on easy because it's easy to get started and easy to play while you are watching football and watching your favorite team play. It's easy. You can pick between up to 2 and 5 players. Underdog Fantasy is available in over 30 states. When you pick your players, you can pick them across any team, not just the Ohio State Buckeyes, but any team. And once you pick your players, you decide if they will finish higher or lower in the stats and the categories that you have chosen. It's one of the easiest fantasies to play. We all love these. We all love games. You combine the two, and you have a great combination. It's easy to play those games, pick them out, and you can win cold, hard cash in one single game. Not multiple, but just one single game. Sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON when you go to UnderdogFantasy.com. It's all one word that the promo is, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit of $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy. Promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. So we talked about the defense and briefly just discussed exactly what the defense did and how they were elite and just some amazing plays that they had made. They really made things hard for a couple of quarterbacks, and Alex Padilla, who came in after Spencer Petras fumbled the snap early in the second half. We knew that Iowa, once again, was going to be a team that needed to throw the ball to try to keep up with the Ohio State offense. They just could not do it. People put things on Brian Ferentz. You can only blame a coach so much. Iowa's quarterbacks are bad. They were bad quarterbacks, and we saw that once again today. Well, as they're bad, was it Ohio State defense that was doing things? Was it just a bad quarterback play that was making things happen? It was a mixture of the two. But in that same token, there were players at Ohio State on said defense that really stood up and stood out. Now, you all know Jay likes to look at the stats briefly and have allow them to quickly tell you a quick story and snapshot of what we saw in the game. Tommy Eichenberg, second on the team in tackles in this game with 7. He had 1 tackle for loss. He had an interception. He had a pass breakup. That's just a quick snapshot, a small glimpse at what Ike did in the game. He controls things in the middle. And it didn't matter if it was him and Still Chambers on the field together or him, Still Chambers, and Cody Simon on the field together. Eichenberg controls the middle. It's very, very difficult to have a guy at middle linebacker that knows what's going to happen pre-snap, that understands his assignment, and also understands how to quickly decipher what's going to happen on the field. Eichenberg does that every single game. It's difficult what he's doing. He's doing it at an elite level, and he's the leader of the defense, and a big reason why the Ohio State defense is so elusive this season, and they were so well over the game. Think about this. Iowa didn't score a touchdown. You know how hard that is to do in college football? Iowa did not score a touchdown. Ohio State, in the entire season, they held Notre Dame to 10 points, Arkansas State to 12 points, Toledo to 21 points, Wisconsin 21 points, Rutgers 10, Michigan State 20, Iowa 10. Think about how crazy this is that a guy last year that was under so much scrutiny and so much criticism for his play, saying, oh, he's just a phone booth type of linebacker. He's just this or he's just that. He's been a whole lot more than what anybody thought he would be. And he's a big reason why Ohio State's defense is so elite and has been elite in 2022. But Zach Harrison, I've been critical. You've probably been critical. Your grandma was probably been critical of Zach Harrison's play. It has not lived up to the hype, which isn't his problem. People put hype on him based off of a recruiting database, which means nothing once you get on the field. But Zach Harrison keeps playing better football every single week. Doesn't matter to the opponent. He keeps getting better. Once again, by the numbers, Zach Harrison, 2 tackles. One of them was a sack. Both tackles were in the backfield with 2 tackles for loss. He had 1 pass breakup. And those are a few of the things that I mentioned that I saw in my notes here. The strip sack early on, he was just beating his man consistently. And there were times you say he's not getting there, but you got to give him credit for almost getting there and getting his hands up, both hands up, getting his paws in the face of the quarterback to really derail and not allow the quarterback clear vision to be able to throw the ball to where he needs to be. And Zach Harrison's leading a defense where we're seeing that Larry Johnson's using a lot of backup defensive linemen. So Zach Harrison knows he needs to shine in these moments because sometimes, a lot of times, the other opposing team can move the offense on Ohio State during those moments when the backups are in there. We've seen it numerous times, not just Notre Dame game, but numerous times throughout the season. And Zach Harrison's been a leader saying, hey, even though these guys are not the starters, they're still really good players. And he is being a good guy and a good team player this year. It was a tip on 3rd down and on the Iowa 3 that forced Iowa to punt. It really, you want to talk about a crazy time. Imagine being Torrey Taylor, the Iowa punter, and the next thing you know, instead of having a little bit more room to punt the ball, you're literally backed up in your own end zone, and one long step backwards, it could be a safety. Yeah, those kinds of things happen to Torrey Taylor because of Zach Harrison's presence and importance to the defense. But then also rushing, he rushed and it caused that Tommy Eichenberg interception. That was caused by a pass rush by Zach Harrison. Zach's been a big player, playing his best ball at Ohio State. He's moving up draft boards as we speak. And we saw another game. We saw a big reason why he's moving up draft boards against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Last but not least, I won't touch on Stroud. Do it on Monday's show. Won't touch on Ryan. I'll do that now. I was going to wait till Monday to talk about Ryan Day and the offensive struggles and part of the things that are going on. But one big thing that I noticed is Ohio State, not just in this game, but in numerous games, it's either Ohio State can run very well or Ohio State can pass the ball very well. Putting the two together in the same game has been hard. 2019 may have been the last time we saw Ohio State where they had a really good passing game and a really good running game. Granted, they had an NFL quarterback and an NFL running back in the backfield, so it made things a little bit easier for them. But it's still the fact that that was the last time. 2020, no. Last year, no. You get the drift. Last year's running game was better than this year's, you might want to say. But you still want to get a consistency. You want to get the passing game and the running game going at the same time. Well, I noticed in this game, especially in the first half when the game was closer, and I was standing up in the second quarter, look, I'm uneasy. Buckeyes are up 33-10, and I'm like, what's going on? Buckeyes have been up the most of the game, and I'm like, I don't feel well because the standard at Ohio State is so high. One of the reasons that I do believe Ohio State struggles running the ball, they struggled running the ball against Iowa, is because Iowa showed you they're not going to allow you to run the ball out of shotgun. That you just could not do it. They would see where the running back was. They would see your personal grouping in your set and how your line was set up, and they would make it very, very hard for you to run the ball. So what does Ohio State do? Instead of running an under center or a pistol formation where the running back is directly behind the line of scrimmage, so the running back has a better vision and a better path and can get ahead of steam going to the line of scrimmage, they kept trying to run the ball out of shotgun. And the few times they ran the ball out of pistol, it worked for them. And so I think part of the offensive struggles are because of play calling, formations, and situationally understanding when to call certain plays, when to audible out of certain plays. And I think it's just a great game for Ryan Day, Kevin Wilson, the offensive staff. They need these games against an elite defense, and the coach has been around a long time. You need these games to realize we have to change things up. Yeah, you won 54-10. Great. That film session tomorrow, buddy, coaches ain't going to be happy. Coaches going to go at coaches. Players going to go at players. They need this performance. You need this game before a tough Penn State team next week, a stripe out, not the whiteout. That's tonight against Minnesota. You need this game today, especially coming off a bye week, because you need to fix things quickly. And I hope, can't say I believe, I hope the Buckeyes fix things quickly before they get back on the field next week against the Penn State and Indy Lions. This is a Locked On Buckeyes postcast. This is not replacing our Monday show coming up literally on Monday morning, giving you more thoughts coming from the game against the Iowa Hawkeyes, where the Buckeyes won by 44 points. Follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Another live postcast is complete. We'll be back on Monday recapping, getting you ready for next week's game, recapping Iowa game, getting ready for next week's game against the Penn State Nittany Lions.